as most of you know by now, 3 students of Palestinian descent were shot in Burlington, Vermont, over the weekend, I believe that was. New details emerge in the shooting of these students as moms speak out. This was ABC News, who got some interviews with
and
the
you notice,
parents.
not to step on the segment, but you notice you're not having all the hand-wringing in the media about this that you have about, a guy at a protest in L.A. having a heart attack.
Right.
Right.
Microaggressions causing people to, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Microaggressions on campus seems to be getting more press than this. Absolutely.
Yes.
As a former Boy Scout leader arrested in the Burlington, Vermont shooting of 3 college students of Palestinian descent pleaded not guilty Monday to attempted murder charges, the mothers of 2 of the victims spoke out in an emotional interview with ABC News. Elizabeth Price, the mother of Hisham Awartani, the most seriously injured of the 3 20-year-old college students, said her son, who attends Brown University in Rhode Island, has a bullet lodged in his spine and that doctors are unsure if he will be able to walk again. That was by far the most serious of the injuries, and he is in very serious condition, and obviously it is questionable whether or not he will regain full functionality, tragically. I'm shaking. I'm hollow inside. I'm aching to be with my son. He's lying immobilized in a bed, but he had very high spirits in the beginning. And I think now it's beginning to sink into him the extent of, the enormity of, the challenge that faces him, Price told ABC News. He may have to be in a wheelchair. I believe that he'll be able to walk, but his life has been taken from him as it is, and he's going to have to recreate this new life. Now, his fellow students at Brown University apparently attended a vigil for him on campus, and we are going to go to some video of that right now because the campus president spoke and the students weren't having it.
We can't control what happens around the world and across the country. We're powerless to do everything we'd like to do. But there's so much that we are doing and continue to do.
I just want to, just in case anybody didn't read that, or for our listeners who listen on the podcast, this is captioned Brown University students interrupt comments from the school's president, Christine Paxson, on Monday night, which calls for the school to divest from weapons manufacturers during a vigil for students shot in Vermont.
We'd like to do. But there's so much that we are doing and continue to do. A vigil for your friend, our student.
Yeah. And?
Let me tell you how I was going to end this, which was, I was going to say that at a faculty meeting last month, I said that every student, faculty, and staff member should be able to proudly don a keffiyeh on the Brown campus, or to cover their head with a hijab. And that Brown is a strong and loving community.
Brown divest.
Yep.
This is how you want to honor your friend?
Yes. That is how, yes, you fake, you liar. You know, I got to tell you, the first segment.
Said that the people are voting.
You said it. They stink on ice.
The first segment brings a sad tear to your eye. This brings a happy tear to my eye almost, because I got to say, I am very, very surprised and very pleasantly surprised that these college students are starting to see who their higher ups are. It's one thing to see who the colonialists are. It's one thing to see who the Israelis are. They're seeing who their faculty are. They're seeing who their deans are and their presidents are. It's amazing to see that. Like, that is really heartening. I never thought I would see that. I really didn't, because I always said, I mean, I've said it a million times on this show. Everybody who watches us regularly knows. You don't go to college to change the system. You go to college as a gateway into it, right? And I never thought that I would see college kids en masse red pill themselves, not only about the world, but about the vessel through which they are traveling into it. And that's what is so fascinating and so heartening about this. I don't want to hear your bullshit. I don't want to hear your fake sympathy. You come out here with your rehearsed speech. The Ivy League universities are part of the problem because they are the waters in which these bloodless elites swim. They are the swamps out of which they emerge. And to see that, man, that is fantastic. That is fantastic to see.
And that is what was so fascinating about it, because she starts pulling the Kente cloth shit.
Exactly, right.
Oh, right. You know how I was going to close this? I think everyone on the Brown campus should have the right to wear the keffiyeh. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yep. And they weren't having it. That is typical liberal Dem bullshit. It's all symbolism. It's all gesture. It's all manners, right? It's all aggressions and microaggressions. It's all nonsense. And they have been using it, as people like us have been screaming for a very long time, as a distraction and a deflection from what's actually going on, which has always been underneath the surface, a betrayal of all of those symbolic gestures that they claim to invest with so much meaning. And to see them starting to look at, no, Brown takes a lot of military contracts. They get a lot of money from the Defense Department. We want you to divest from Israel. That's it. That's the shit, man. That's the shit. And you're right. It happens so fast because, you know, God knows on this show we have really interrogated a lot of these college kids because they've tended to just buy into it.
Right.
And to see them so quickly turn around and take these ideas much more seriously than just shallow kente cloth bearing assholes like their university president here ever expected or intended them to. It is very heartening. And you can see, just like any dissolute aristocracy confronted with the rage of the people, she just has absolute disdain for these students. And especially what's really funny about libs is they see themselves so much as the virtuous good guys.
Exactly.
It's inconceivable to them that their shallow gestures are not sufficient, right? Well, then I'm just going to go, right? I mean, that was her attitude when she left.
Right. Exactly. I'm here to virtue signal, and if that's not good enough for you, well, then the hell with you. I'm sorry I ever opened my mouth. That was the Juliana Margulies thing. You know, I try to respect people's pronouns and stuff like that, and then they hang us out to dry, right, when the rubber hits the road, right? They won't support our genocide, even though we virtue signal to them, right? We express support.
Well, and that's why I say this is very much like the Vietnam era, at least as it's starting to shape up, because you're seeing for the first time, really, since then, where you're having this generational shift, where the entire generation is refusing to accept the premises upon which all of these institutions are built. These institutions are all built on fake virtue on the outside and horrific crimes on the inside. You know, to look at it in a much more trivial thing, this is one of the reasons I like to get into it sometimes. You look at a company like Disney that so many people who are very invested in these kinds of liberal values will defend to the death. They're one of the worst companies for labor. They're one of the worst companies for workers. It's very well known throughout the industry. They've always underpaid. And in terms of the identity politics they claim to care so much about, they'll cut out the LGBTQ content depending on the market when they do put it in. They're being sued in a class action lawsuit for underpaying their female employees. And, that's a trivial example, but you look at these universities like Brown, like Harvard, like MIT, they're getting a lot of money from the military-industrial complex. Even as they are pulling down statues and changing the names of buildings, they're deeply involved in bombing the shit out of non-white people all over the world. And it is very heartening to see these kids finally waking up to that reality.
Please clap.